Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I am Sylphin. We got Proof of Concept Episode 3, where we're talking about the jungle just released. Massive amount of information here, and a little bit of discussion that I'm going to actually add myself. So yes, there's going to be a little bit of exclusive content. It's just a little bit of details perhaps should have been mentioned, but remember, not too many details are meant to be disclosed in the proof of concept, as it's just simply sharing the concepts, right? Or we kind of want to, it's the concept, not necessarily the nitty gritty. So here's another showcase of the beautiful map, shown more specifically. So you can see all of the entrances to around each tower, one of these elevated access paths to each tower. We can drop down. We have the Mana Guardian and the Arcane Guardian and Zetchin Guardian on each side. We have the duo lane with the Ember Warden and Remnants, which you can see down here with the Prime Guardian, the Prime Guardian on the off lane side. One thing that is mentioned here is that the off lane jungle will be changing, because the Prime Guardian is a more late game option where it's more team fights. The off lane jungle will be changing to be a little bit more open. That's the intention there. A little bit more open, a little bit more spacious to facilitate and help team fights be a little bit more clean, perhaps. So here's the Gideon the man running through the jungle. We can get a little peek inside of that Guardian Ember collector area there, and heading back into lane. Chimera attacking some jungle minions. All the jungle minions so far, as you can see, are different, and they all have different models. So there is definitely unique jungle camps that are talked about here. And Steel, Murdoch jumping off of the Warden pit there, running around the Remnant or Prime pit. As you can see, maybe there's little raptor figurines there, so maybe that it does indeed indicate the remnants. And you can see a little you can see the elevated ramps here that maybe can provide shelter if you're standing under it from something above. Who knows? And obviously you can ambush stuff in there. So we have 15 unique jungle minions, 10 unique groups of jungle camps, all with unique abilities. Have the gameplay of killing these minions and camps different, so that it's not just stand there and basic attack. All of the abilities and mechanics aren't disclosed. They're not disclosed yet. And you see here, now there's 3 of them. One range and two melee, but they look different. And here are all of the different camps that are being shown here. Now, what is the physical energy in neutral? What wasn't said in the video, and what I am allowed to say and clear up a bit, I'll move myself here for you, is that physical energy in neutral tell you what these camps are resistant against. Meaning, a physical camp is more resistant, will take less damage from physical attacks, physical damage attacks, and energy is more resistant to energy-based attacks. Neutral is neutral. It doesn't matter. They have equal resistance, whether that's a lot of resistance or less resistance. It's equal resistance to both damage types. So kind of they don't really care. They just, you know, they have equal. So what also isn't mentioned is that they are susceptible. They take more damage from the opposite damage type. So physical is resistant to physical damage, but will take increased energy damage. Energy damage is resistant to energy, or energy camps are resistant to energy damage, but are susceptible to physical damage. And neutral, again, is just neutral. They don't care. They're not susceptible or more resistant to anything else. What also isn't said is that between these 3 camps here, clear speed is meant to be about the same for each 3 types. The only things that change are how you necessarily kill them, where you move, which abilities you move, which abilities you use first. You know, just the gameplay, just so that it's not the same kiting with the same basic attacks and same abilities that you use all the time. Okay, so the you know, everything will be, well, physical camps will have intended clear speed. You know, will have a similar energy and neutral, so that you can rely on some. You can there is some reliability within the jungle, but just how you kill them, in what order, and what you got to do, and where you got to move to avoid stuff, that is different between these three camps. So very, very cool. You have some desert, swamp, beast, crystal, what? Fairy, void camp, tech camp, Letha camp. Maybe from Letha? Who knows? So very, very cool. And that is what I am allowed to say. Kind of clear that up. Physical, strong against physical, but weak against energy, etc., etc., with different camps all around. Now, another unique mechanic is that you can leash these camps off of their spawn pad, and if you time it right, every 2 minutes, if you know, right when another group is supposed to spawn, you leash a camp away, boom, another camp can actually spawn there, and you can stack these camps. And whoever does that stacking gets a little bit of a bonus, a little bit of an economy bonus when that camp dies. So what this does is every 2 minutes is actually a fair amount of time. If you guys know, 2 minutes is actually a fair amount of time for jungle camps to spawn. So if they spawn so infrequently, maybe they're stronger, maybe they're worth more. So, you know, if you manage to stack a camp, well, all of a sudden you're extracting more value out of time. It's essentially time. You're taking more value. You're harvesting more value out of time than otherwise would be able to. And I'm gonna actually slow this down here to realize that I haven't been doing that. It'll look a little bit weird. But maybe we can skip ahead to where I'm not talking. So very, very cool. Your laners can maybe, you know, coordinate that and start to get very, very competitive, and, you know, start to anticipate, maybe somebody is going to go and stack that camp for the jungler. You know, and you're going to start to coordinate that. So laners can be involved with everything. If their lane is too pushed up, they can go in. You can even stack an enemy's camp so that you can get bonus out of that and then kill them so that you get double bonus. So cool. Lots of things that are going to go on with, you know, it's options. It's all about giving options that people can play with. Now we have Guardians. The Zetchin Guardian and Arcane Guardian. Zetchin on the dual lane and Arcane on the off. Zetchin Guardian provides movement speed and sustain when in the jungle, and the Arcane Guardian spawns these mana crystals that you can pick up for mana and cooldown reduction. Notice that both actually sound like they are good for any type of hero, not necessarily melee basic attacky heroes. It's good for ranged casters, even melee casters, ranged basic attack heroes, definitely. And that is stated right, pretty much right here. It is our intent, indeed. It is the intent that ability based heroes, whether they're melee or ranged, can be used in the jungle just as much as a melee physical based hero, melee basic attack based hero is, you know, is. So totally intended for Shinbi to be in the jungle, perhaps, say, maybe, Countess, maybe, you know, you know, you could go crazy with maybe some other ranged casters or ranged, you know, absolutely wanting to keep that flexibility in there if it so works for certain kinds of heroes. Gives it diverse options that you can take into the draft lobby and really utilize. Now we have the Ember collectors. I want to pause it right here and get a good look. So there's two on each half, one in each quarter, that gives a drip to a team that has activated it. So if you have one in your team's name, if you've claimed it for your team, it will just forever give a global drip. So that is that global drip that, you know, when you're at base and you just need a few more economy, you need a few more gold, and you're like, oh, come on, where, you know, I just need a little bit more. Boom, that is where you can, you know, your team gets it from. But there's two parts to it. One, you have to activate it on this little pad that you can see here on the right. You can see it starts to fill up, and then there's more filling up, and then it fills, and that means you've activated it for your team. You've claimed it. You either claimed it from, you stole the enemies, or activate it for your team. You get a little bit of a bonus. So activating it actually gives you some Ember, which is the economy, and a little bit more is actually spread to your team. So if you have a good jungler who's on, and they can even maybe, you know, invade the enemy junglers, they claim one of theirs, or both, who knows, your whole team benefits. So having a good jungler, good efficient jungler, benefits the entire team, not necessarily only himself. But there's also something else. The drip is locked to your team, so for a duration. So that means that you can actually go into the enemy jungle and claim it, and make sure that you know that you have a good value from it, and the enemy team is not going to come over and activate again. And it's like, oh great, well, why was I there? So you can lock it. You know, you can lock it, and you know, prevent the enemy from claiming yours, or the enemy can prevent you from claiming theirs. Just so you can ensure value from it. Now here showcases the next thing. One of the things personally that I found the most not compelling about any harvester of whether it was the Amber Link or any of the iterations of the harvesters, was that you literally just stood there. You know, the most compelling gameplay of standing somewhere is in like a platformer, when you have to stand somewhere and dodge two massive laser beams that are going to kill you. That's the most compelling nature of standing in one place somewhere. or maybe in a MOBA, when, you know, there's a skill that only is a ring and you have to stand in the middle. Maybe that's the most compelling. But that was the least compelling. So in this, you actually can empower the bonus that you get from activating it, and the bonus that the rest of the team gets by this little mini game here, shown on here. You can see that there's 6 different slots, it looks like, that can light up, and it doesn't matter, and this is a clarification that I can make from the video as well, is that it doesn't matter if you're melee or ranged. Each kind of hero will be able to do it the same. So you'll be able to, as the targets light up, you'll be able to activate them. You're not shooting, you're not bound to attack speed. I can say that. That's pretty important to know. So as fast as you can, you know, play whack-a-mole essentially with these lights, the more you can do, and the more you can empower these bonuses for your team. And the really cool thing that I like about it is that it accentuates the 3D third-person nature of core. That is the uniqueness to it. This collector, not harvester, this collector is an entirely MOBA-like mechanic inherently. It's an economy. That plays the economy itemization MOBA game. But throw in this charging mechanic, and now you've pulled from the third-person aiming nature of the game to empower the MOBA element. A wonderful melding of the two that I would much rather have instead of just standing there. Now we have the Remnants. The Remnants are the version of the Fangtooth model that you're seeing here. So they spawn. There's 4 of them that can randomly spawn one at a time, starting in the mid-game. And you can get it, and they give you small but permanent buffs, and they're all different. One is sustain when in combat. One is movement speed across the map. Great for split push comps. A sustain maybe for more bruiser brawlery, or a team that has no sustain and you need some to just kind of sustain in fights perhaps. There's damage over time when attacking heroes. So maybe you have a really good poke comp. You know, you have a super duper long range caster and some other kind of hero. You know, you have a long range caster and a wraith or something. I don't know. You know, you have a really good poke comp. You really utilize that. And the last one keeps escaping me. I always forget. Which one is it. The 4 actually are actually said here. Please see the video description for links to the video. And as you can see, each of them, you know, the movement speed great for split pushing comp, perhaps, right? You have one absolutely fantastic split pusher and another foursome that is great on its own, that can split push, and you can really do that. Meant to provide options. And I'm gonna pause it here for on Orb Prime, and they respond randomly, and that's a really cool thing. So each match of core can be different. One kind of Revenant can spawn 4 times in a row, although that's insanely unlikely. What is that? 4 to the power of 4, whatever that is. Is that how that works? Right? Like, that's insanely unlikely, and that'll almost never happen by the time that of all the games of core that you're ever going to play. It probably will never happen, but it is possible. And the different combination of remnants that can spawn and you can collect makes it very, very unique. Now, Orb Prime. Look at how big he is, how nice, menacing he is. Yes, I love it. Orb Prime. The mechanics seem complex at first, but it's really not too bad. We're actually going to skip right to when the summary is provided at the end. There's 3 parts. There's 3 parts to it. The first part is a buff that you get when you last hit Prime Guardian. There's a buff. Favor the Asher, it's called. You can recall to base and regenerate at base faster, and nearby minion health and damage is increased near around your heroes. That's it. Last hitting the buff. Last hitting Prime Guardian gives you a team-wide buff. Helps with sieging and regenerating and more map pressure. That's what it's meant for. Fantastic. Okay. Now, the Orb Prime drops. A little orb drops, and somebody can pick it up. That's the second part. Somebody can pick it up. They get increased health and mana regeneration out of combat and severely increased damage output. Obviously, that sounds really good for a carry. Maybe a long range, nuke 'em down, assassin magey thing. Who knows? That's what that's for. That's the second part of it. But there's also a third part. You can also take this orb and dunk it to gain the Fury of the Asher buff, which doubles the effects of any remnant buffs that you've accumulated over the match and grants everybody on your team a small damage increase for a short period. So there's 3 parts. The last hit buff, the orb buff, and then the dunked buff that basically spreads. So you have options. Maybe your remnant buffs are fantastic for your team, and you want and you really want to utilize that. Boom, you have that option. Maybe you're kind of behind, and maybe your remnant buffs aren't that great, or you don't have any, or maybe you have one. It really doesn't mesh with your team comp. Boom. Now you have the chance to empower your carry, who may be a little bit behind, so that now they have a better chance in these team fights. Boom! Now you stand a chance getting back. You have presumably the first part of the buffs. You can siege and get a little bit of map control back and claim a few structures. Boom! There you go. Now you're back in the game all of a sudden, and now the battlefield is level. Maybe you can outplay and maybe just win the game straight away. There's lots of options here that you can use, and depending on the nature of the game and these buffs, you can use to your desires. And it's all about those options that, are there for you to decide what you want to do. 3 parts. 3 parts. You don't really need to, the favor of the Asher, we got the Paragon of Agora, and we got the Fury of the Asher buffs. The names, you need to just those 3 parts. Those 3 parts. There's 2 parts. You don't even need to consider the last part if you really don't want to. But there is those 3 parts there. And then here I'm talking about the style of the jungle, how it's meant to feel like a jungle, and this canopy and all this vegetation. It's meant to be a very different space from the jungle, both literally and geometrically. The jungle is meant to force different gameplay, to facilitate different gameplay. You're not supposed to have clean, spacious team fights in the jungle. That is its purpose. You want different parts of an arena to serve and facilitate different kinds of gameplay. So the duo lane jungle here that looks like you're seeing here is a little bit more confined, as you know, in the early game, rotations are going to be sparse but very important. So if you can catch people in these corridors, you have, you know, you have an advantage, you know, to really corner people in there. And then the off lane jungle, as said before, will be more spacious because that Prime Guardian is there. It's in the late game a little bit more, and it'll be a little bit more spacious because more team fights will be happening. You want to facilitate that as people rotate in and out of Prime Guardian. So that is that. And a little sneak peek of some cut focused in Twin Blast and Muriel gameplay here as they're going to town on each other there in lanes. So there you guys have it. Little bit of an explanation here for parts of the jungle. And I hope you guys enjoyed. It's a lot. It's complex, but in the end, when you play it, it's gonna be. You're gonna have to learn. You know, it's a brand new game, so it's a brand new game in a lot of respects, but still very much, you know, all the elements of Paragon that you know, we love, and the spirit and stuff is there. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think of all the jungle. What do you guys think of the mechanics? What are you most looking forward to? And maybe perhaps what are you most worried about? Any advice, any feedback? Please let me know down in the comments below. Please like the video if you like it, dislike, share with the community, and of course, guys, subscribe.